Alice: Madness Returns follows more than 10 years after the original, once again giving players a third-person action game set in an alternate vision of Lewis Carroll's Wonderland. There's certainly a lot of creative energy swirling around, but is this strange trip worth taking? The original game concludes with Alice being released from an insane asylum, but as the title of the sequel hints, she's still got a few issues. Troubled by memories of a fire that killed her family, Alice finds herself slipping back and forth between fantasy and reality as she sorts out her mind and pieces together the truth.
The world is upside down, Alice. Inmates run the asylum. No thanks. And worst of all, I'm left tealess.
Tragic.
Flavorful writing fits with the Victorian setting and sometimes manages to evoke the clever playfulness of the source material. But other times, it's so caught up in its dark and twistedness that it becomes laughable. While the developers want Alice's story to be a big part of the experience, the story-focused elements feel isolated from the game as a whole.
So typical.
Alice deals with her problems in a surreal and grotesque wonderland by navigating floating platforms, fighting off monsters with weapons that include a hobby horse and a teapot, and sometimes taking a break from the old hop and bop to play some sort of game within a game. Each chapter is a distinctly different look, with some genuinely imaginative backdrops and great visual variety, but you'll approach each new level in almost the exact same way. Wherever you are, you'll trip switches, ride air currents, and time your jumps to moving platforms. The game is extremely slow to introduce new types of challenges, and the novelty of curious new sights and sounds doesn't mask subsequent cycles of repetition. The literal fight to get through the game is kept a bit fresher as new weapons and adversaries are introduced at a more even pace, but the overall tempo remains extremely poor. Levels can feel interminable as challenges you've long since mastered are repeated over and over again, and arbitrary interruptions like sliding puzzles or retro-styled side-scrolling sections fall somewhere between distraction and busy work. In the game's one non-standard design choice, short interludes on what may or may not be Alice's real world limit the heroine to walking around and observing the environment. These slightly interactive breaks don't always succeed in engaging you, but one or two of these sequences just might be bizarre enough to pull you in. Wonderland is a place where solid ground can never be taken for granted. With these challenges in mind, Alice is well equipped with the ability to float and skip through the air, with a butterfly dash adding a bit of flourish to her fanciful locomotion. She can shrink at will to fit through keyholes, as well as detect invisible secrets with her rather inexplicable shrink sense. You're certainly given adequate means to handle the game's challenges, but environmental oddities like invisible walls or progress-thwarting bugs sometimes make navigating the world more frustrating than it should be. Alice shows some smarts when it comes to combat, letting you use all your weapons in tandem and making certain tools effective or even necessary against certain enemies or obstacles. Locking onto your intended target can be problematic and inconsistent, but fighting Wonderland's freaks can be an enjoyable activity. You'll certainly start to feel bogged down when each of a level's battles start to feel just like the last one, but at least teeth bashed out of your enemies or environment can be traded in for upgrades. While the only real fault with the leaping and killing is your requirement to repeat every task and process you learn over and over again, the minigame-like activities used to break up the action range from kind of neat to pointless to absolutely no fun at all. Fortunately, the most irritating puzzles, such as needing to rearrange a sliding puzzle after finding the pieces, can be skipped completely. When it comes to secrets, most of Alice's collectibles are extraneous items on a checklist, although it's worth seeking out secret rooms to collect rose-colored paint to increase your life meter. The game holds one or two tricks up its sleeve, but you'll experience most of what the game has to offer after only a few hours, minus the window dressing. If anything keeps you going, it's the desire to see what the imaginations of the artists can come up with.
And it's more horrible even than you could currently imagine!
The Wonderland represented here is creative and imaginative without question, presenting you with numerous sights that you're not likely to see in any other game. An optional first-person view in certain sections invites you to examine things up close, but the game doesn't always stand up to such close scrutiny. It's unfortunate that technical issues mar such a pretty package. Details suddenly popping into view, blurry graphics, and a lack of fluidity in character animation occur too consistently to go unnoticed. Some enemies have heaps of personality, but Alice herself suffers from a lack of expression. She changes outfits to match her environments, but outside cutscenes, she's merely a blank-faced doll with standard video game-style combat training, melee, and ranged. Alice Madness Returns doesn't quite operate under modern game logic, and while it's certainly fine for a game to play by its own rules, it helps if those rules don't feel slapdash and outmoded. This new incarnation of Alice is certainly capable on a basic level, but she's a bit lost. You're sure to find at least a few interesting things if you take this trip, but don't be surprised if it drives you a bit mad.